A shy Omega whispered a warning, saving the Alpha King with a scent no one else detected. Welcome to the story, King, where every tale holds a secret worth discovering. The Alpha King would be dead in 3 minutes, and only Iris could smell it. Her fingers trembled against the silver tray she carried, crystal goblets clinking like death knells as she navigated the grand hall's marble floors. 200 wolves in formal attire laughed and drank beneath chandeliers that dripped with diamonds, celebrating the treaty that would end decades of war between the northern and southern packs. At the center of it all, King Dante Ashford raised his wineglass, his midnight black hair catching the light, his silver eyes scanning the crowd with the quiet intensity that had made him legend. He was beautiful, terrifying, untouchable, and someone had poisoned his wine. Iris's Omega senses screamed at her, the acrid chemical tang cutting through the perfume and testosterone that saturated the air. Wolfsbane, no, something worse. Something designed to bypass an alpha's natural immunity, to stop a heart mid-beat and make it look like natural causes. The scent was so faint, so expertly masked, that even the king's elite guards standing 3 feet away couldn't detect it. But Iris could. She'd always been different, cursed with a sensitivity that made her useless for anything but serving drinks and staying invisible. The other Omegas mocked her for it, too fragile, too fearful, too weak to even speak above a whisper. Now that weakness was the only thing standing between the Alpha King and assassination. Dante lifted the glass to his lips. Iris's heart stopped. Her feet moved before her mind could catch up, propelling her forward through the crowd. Alphas and betas turned, annoyed at the disruption, the disapproving glares burning into her skin. She was nothing to them, a shadow in servant's grey, beneath notice, beneath contempt. Your Majesty. Her voice came out as barely more than a breath, swallowed by the music and conversation. Dante didn't hear her. The glass tilted toward his mouth. Desperation made her bold. Iris surged forward, her tray forgotten, and her hand shot out to knock the glass from the king's grasp. Time seemed to slow. She watched the crystal arc through the air, watched the wine spray across the white marble like arterial blood, watched the king's silver eyes snap to her with the focused violence of a predator recognizing a threat. The temperature in the room plummeted. Seize her. Dante's voice was arctic, absolute. 2 guards had her arms in seconds, the grip bruising even as she went limp with submission. The crowd had fallen silent, every wolf in the hall staring at the Omega who had dared to touch their king. Iris couldn't breathe. Her Omega instinct screamed at her to bare her throat, to apologize, to beg forgiveness for her presumption. But she forced herself to meet those silver eyes, forced herself to speak even as her voice shook. Poison, she whispered. The wine. I could smell it. Dante's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his gaze, calculation, perhaps, or suspicion. He gestured sharply, and one of his advisors hurried forward with a silver testing rod, the kind designed to detect common toxins. The man crouched, touched the rod to the spilled wine, and waited. Nothing happened. The advisor looked up at Dante and shook his head. Clean, Your Majesty. The guards' grips tightened. Around them, the crowd murmured, angry, scandalized, calling for punishment. Iris felt her knees begin to buckle. She'd been wrong. She'd humiliated herself and insulted the king based on her faulty senses, and now she would pay for it. Wait. Dante's command cut through the noise like a blade. He descended from the dais with predatory grace, moving through the crowd until he stood directly before her. This close, his scent hit her like a physical force, winter pine and smoke and something wild that made her Omega instincts sing with confused longing. He was enormous, easily a foot taller than her, his shoulders broad enough to block out the world. He leaned down, his face inches from hers. What exactly did you smell? Iris's mouth went dry. She could feel the heat radiating from his body, could see the flecks of ice blue in his silver irises. Bitter almond, she managed. And something chemical, not wolfsbane, sharper, like silver burning, but wrong somehow. Twisted. Dante's eyes narrowed. He straightened, turning to his head of security, a scarred beater named Marcus who looked like he could bite through steel. Nightshade Silver, Dante said quietly. Synthesized. Marcus went pale. That's impossible. That's syndicate work. They were wiped out 5 years ago. Apparently not. Dante's gaze never left Iris's face. Standard tests won't detect it. The only way to know for certain is genetic analysis, which takes hours. He paused, and something in his expression softened almost imperceptibly, or a nose sensitive enough to catch what others miss. He reached out slowly, giving her time to flinch away, and lifted her chin with one finger. The touch sent electricity racing down her spine. What's your name? Iris, Your Majesty. Iris Thorn. Iris. He tested the name like he was tasting wine. You saved my life tonight. I might be wrong, she whispered. The test said. The test is designed for common poisons. If you're right about Nightshade Silver, that test would miss it entirely. His thumb brushed her jawline, a gesture so gentle it seemed impossible from a man who'd killed his enemies with his bare hands. If you're wrong, you'll have embarrassed me in front of 200 witnesses. If you're right, you've exposed a conspiracy that should have died years ago. He released her chin and stepped back, his expression hardening into command. Marcus, I want that wine analyzed immediately. Full spectrum, including syndicate compounds. Seal the hall, no one leaves until we have answers. His gaze swept the crowd, and Iris watched alphas and betas alike shrink from the fury in his eyes. Someone in this room just tried to kill me. Someone close enough to access a pre-poured glass meant only for my lips. Panic rippled through the gathered walls. Voices rose in protest and denial. Iris felt the guards release her arms, but she couldn't move, couldn't think beyond the terrible realization that if she was right, the assassin was standing in this very hall, watching her with murderous intent. Dante turned back to her, and his expression shifted again, that strange, unexpected softness returning. You'll stay with me until this is resolved. Under my protection. Your Majesty, I'm just a servant. You're the wolf who saved my life. His voice dropped to a tone only she could hear, intimate and edged with something that might have been wonder. Do you have any idea how rare your gift is? How valuable? He leaned closer, and she could feel his breath against her ear. How many others could have detected what you did? Iris shivered despite the heat of his proximity. I don't know. No one's ever asked, because they assumed your sensitivity was weakness. He straightened, and there was dark satisfaction in his smile. They were fools. The next 2 hours passed in a blur of questions and chaos. Iris was installed in a private room off the Grand Hall, with 2 guards posted at her door, protection or imprisonment, she couldn't tell. Through the walls, she could hear raised voices, accusations, the sound of someone shouting about rights and protocol. Then Marcus arrived, his expression grim. He bowed to Dante, who'd remained in the room with her, standing by the window like a dark sentinel. Analysis confirms it, Your Majesty. Nightshade Silver, concentrated enough to drop you in 30 seconds. No antidote once it enters the bloodstream. Iris's legs gave out. She sank into the chair behind her, the reality of what had nearly happened crashing over her in waves. She'd been right. She'd actually been right. The Alpha King had been seconds from death. Dante moved faster than she thought possible, crossing the room to kneel before her chair. His hands caught hers, warm and solid and real. Breathe, Iris. You're safe. You did well. I almost didn't, she gasped. I almost let you die because I was too afraid to speak up. But you didn't. His grip tightened. When it mattered, you found your courage. That's what counts. She looked down at their joined hands, at the contrast between his scarred, powerful fingers and her small, trembling ones. An Alpha King didn't kneel for servants, didn't hold their hands, didn't look at them with eyes that held something dangerously close to admiration. Who, she whispered, who tried to kill you? Dante's expression went cold as winter. The treaty was a trap. The Southern Alpha's advisor, the one who organized this celebration, has been syndicate all along. We found the poison vial in his quarters, along with evidence of communications with syndicate remnants across the border. He released one of her hands to brush a strand of hair from her face, the gesture achingly tender. They chose tonight because they thought I'd be too distracted by politics to notice. They didn't account for you. What happens now? Now we end this, permanently. He stood, offering her his hand. And you, Iris Thorne, are going to help me. She stared up at him, confusion warring with the flutter of something warm in her chest. How? You're not, just, anything. His voice held a command that made her spine straighten instinctively. If they tried once, they'll try again. They'll use poisons, toxins, compounds that even my best senses might miss. But you won't miss them. He pulled her gently to her feet, and suddenly they were standing close enough that she could count his heartbeats. I'm offering you a position, Iris. As my personal Omega, your job will be to stay close to me, to monitor everything I consume, everyone who comes near me. To be my early warning system against threats others can't perceive. Her mind reeled. Personal Omega, that meant living in the king's quarters, attending him constantly, being bound to him by both duty and pack law. It meant leaving behind her life of invisibility and stepping into the most dangerous spotlight in the kingdom. It meant spending every day in the presence of a man who made her heart race and her instincts sing with longing. I accept, she heard herself say. Dante smiled, a real smile that transformed his severe features into something breathtaking. Good, because I wasn't taking no for an answer. He tucked her hand into the crook of his elbow, leading her toward the door. Come, we have assassins to interrogate and a conspiracy to dismantle. And Iris. Yes, Your Majesty. His silver eyes caught hers, burning with an intensity that stole her breath. Call me Dante. You've earned that right. As they walked through the doors together, Iris caught sight of their reflection in the hall's mirrors, an enormous Alpha King and a small Omega in servant's grey, side by side like they belonged there. Like they'd always belonged there. She didn't see the figure watching from the shadows of the upper gallery, didn't catch the glint of metal or the whispered communication into a hidden device. The Omega is a problem, the voice murmured. She'll ruin everything, then eliminate her. It won't be easy. He's claimed her as his. She'll be protected. A pause, then a soft, dangerous laugh. Protected from external threats, perhaps. But what about the ones already inside? The poisons that take weeks to kill instead of seconds. By the time anyone realizes what's happening, the king will be watching his precious Omega die in his arms, and there won't be anything he can do to stop it. The figure melted back into darkness, leaving only the scent of bitter almond and twisted silver hanging in the air, a warning that went unnoticed in the chaos of the evening. The war for the Alpha King's life had only just begun. And this time, the target wasn't just Dante. It was the Shy Omega who'd dared to save him. Thank you for reading with the Story King, where the adventure never truly ends.